Let us start. Okay. Hello everyone, and good evening to you all. Thank you for joining us for our first official Bounce Back webinar. Today, in spirit of honesty, courage, and possibility, this is not just a conversation about success, it's a conversation about the in between, the moments when life breaks our rhythm, tests our faith, and pushes us to become someone we never imagined we could be. We are honored to be joined by three remarkable women who are our panelists for today, whose journeys remind us that resilience isn't defined by the fall itself, but by the transformation that happens while we are still navigating the uncertainty of rising again. My hope for today's conversation is to give you a language for your own journey, clarity for your next step, and the courage to rise again, not as who you were, but who you are going to become. Once again, welcome to the Bounce Back Experience, streaming live on YouTube too. So for our audience that is joining us from YouTube Live, thank you and welcome. My name is Celine, and I have the honor to guide this conversation and create a space where truth, reflection, and growth can unfold with grace. A few things to be noted. Please keep your microphones turned off, muted, unless invited to speak. I use the chat for questions throughout and comments. If you have a moment of reflection, if something pops up in your mind, and if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Let's begin. First, I would like to introduce the driving horse behind this powerful book, behind these stories coming to life. He is the director of Zion Pearl Publishing. He is the main reason that we get a chance to experience these stories, we get a chance to read these publications, and I would like to welcome him to come and tell us the journey of Bounce Back and why Bounce Back. Welcome, Mr. Dosso.
Thank you so very much. My name is Dosso Radido. I may not be able to be live on video because I'm having some issues here with my video, but if you can hear my voice, please let me know.
Yes, we can hear you.
Are you able to hear me? Just indicate with a thumbs up or something so that I know that I am. Dosso Radido is my name, the director, Zion Pearl Publishers. This day is for a long while now, and now that it has come, I just want to take advantage of it just to make sure that I get good value out of it. So what brings us here today is not necessarily me, but the women that have been featured in the book Bounce Back. And the reason why we are talking about this is we are interested in understanding the dynamics of creating success and progress, not necessarily from, but when things flip to the negative and you find yourself from a position that is lower than what you
Yes.
anticipated or worse than what
Nzuri.
you wanted. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. So we gather here today to listen to these amazing women leaders who have accepted to share from their experiences, from their lives, from their journeys on how to navigate, challenges of rock bottoms, breaking points, how to master bravery, resilience, tenacity, and bounce back strategies. The reason why this is very important is because now we find ourselves in a situation where failure is becoming more and more common, or challenges are becoming more and more common because of the reality of the life that we live in today. Experts have said that they're complex, and as we master strategies to succeed, we must also be able to know how to deal with the unfortunate reality of change and sometimes failure or obstacles standing in the way. So, project that we are calling the Bounce Back Project, that has a book in it, has these kinds of conversations in it. We are looking forward to bigger conversations during the launch and after. And therefore, today we're just going to be treated to a bit of what is there to be heard or to be seen. And I'm so much excited to be here, and I can't wait to hear the insights from the panelists that we've lined up in today's session. So without taking so much time, I just want to welcome all of you. And I'm hoping that you're ready with your notebook and pen. And if you have any questions to any of the ladies here or any other lady that is featured in the project that you may want to be attended to, then this is your time. As has been guided, if you have any questions that you want to write, you can just put it in the chat. Or if you want to have it, you want to ask the question yourself, then at the opportune time, you'll be given an opportunity to ask it. But I'll throw my question right now so that as the ladies begin to take us through, then they will find an opportunity to answer it. And my question is, it is possible that somebody has been able to bounce back. Let's say they had a financial situation and they were able to bounce back. How confident should they be with that success or bounce back success from a financial standpoint to be able to handle any other challenges that may not be related to finances, for example? Or in other words, when someone is a master of a financial bounce back, have they become masters of other forms of bounce back, let's say relational bounce back, or health crisis bounce back? I would really want to know whether it's okay to connect this, or somebody would have to master different strategies for different situations. Thank you so very much, and back to you, Celine.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction and insights towards bumps. I get your point. As standing, you have bounced back. Does that mean you will be able to an emotional for or something that is not issues? So you could all put your one cannot be a master of managing issues like this. And as I mentioned, for those that have just joined us, my name is Celine, and I am your moderator for today. And also, just to repeat our housekeeping rules, put off your microphones, let them be muted unless invited to speak. Use the chat for questions throughout this session, and if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and a chance will be given to you. And as previously mentioned, we are joined by three remarkable women, very excellent and amazing, beautiful ladies. And I would like to welcome them to introduce themselves. Ladies, please tell us your name, what you do in general, and any entrepreneurship businesses that you may have. And just to break a little ice, a fun fact about you, and give us a brief into your chapter before we go ahead. We'll start with, let me use alphabets. We'll start with Catherine, then Clemencia, then Syombua.
Thank you,
Thank
Celine.
you.
Thank you for
Welcome,
the
Catherine.
opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Catherine Ochako, and you can hear me clearly? I just need to confirm that. Perfect. All right. So I'm the founder and CEO of AgiraWorks Limited, a UK headquartered HR tech company that helps businesses to hire, manage, and pay talent across the globe. I'm also the creator of the Reinvention Program, a program that helps professionals, career professionals, to move from setback to setup. And I'm happy to be here. A fun fact, I never know what to say when I'm asked that question. Well, I love running. That's all. Yeah. Back to you, Celine.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I believe not everyone loves to run, so that could be an actual fun fact. Yeah. I'll go ahead and welcome Clemencia.
Thank you. Thank you, Celine. Thank you, my fellow panelists. Thank you, friends. I can see my family from wherever you are logged in. I can see friends, former classmates. Thank you very much for coming to join us in this wonderful conversation. Karibuni sana. So my name is Clemencia Mwamburi. I'm a woman who from my earliest days has believed in supporting others, especially those younger than myself, realize their dreams and attain their highest potential. The overarching quality and desire, I shall call it a vocation, has found its home lately in bouncing back as a professional coach, particularly a coach in mindset shifting. My first degree was in electrical and electronics engineering, and I went on to study computer science and management information systems as postgraduate level at the University of Nairobi. I have worked for more than a decade at Kenya Pipeline Company as a maintenance engineer in what used to be called telecontrol and instrumentation section, and was a founding member of information communication and technology section. I'm sure those names have changed now. And I left as the chief information technology officer. I then worked for a decade, almost the same number of years as in Pipeline, with the Society of Jesus Africa offices. For those who don't know, the Society of Jesus is a worldwide male-only religious congregation in the Catholic Church. And it is actually, so far, I think, one of the largest orders in the Catholic Church. It was founded by a Basque nobleman called Ignatius of Loyola, and they are custodians of Ignatian spirituality, which we shall hear quite a bit about as we progress with this webinar. There I worked in the social justice and administration departments before doing leadership development. When I left the Society of Jesus, I joined my husband in our family engineering consultancy firm on a full-time basis. This is a firm which is in construction and building services. And now, very happily, I have founded an organization called Magis Life Coaching, through which I offer professional coaching and mentorship services. A fun fact about myself, I love challenging myself. So recently, I went zip lining at the forest. For someone who has never climbed a tree, that was something, I can tell you. I also learned how to ride a bicycle in my 50s. A very stressful venture for my family, I can tell you, and they will attest to that. They are all here. I'm looking forward to summiting Mount Kenya and Kilimanjaro, God willing, at some point. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clemencia, for that. And as someone who doesn't know how to ride a bicycle, I think I'm going to follow in those footsteps. We shall have Syombua introduce herself next.
All right. Thank you so much, Celine. And Clemencia, welcome to our world of extreme sports. We're the ones who keep jumping from the corners of interesting mountains. So, karibu sana. My name is Syombua Kibue, and I am in sports. I am a lover of sports. I am the CEO and the founder of Scare, which is a sports commercial company. But on top of that, I wear very many hats. Some of them include I am a country representative for G100, that is Global 100 Women under the Women Economic Forum, which is under the sports sector. I am also a country representative for the first ever digital university in sports, and that is BOSS, Business of Institute of Africa. And this is the first university where professionals come in to become lecturers to educate the people in sports that we require in order to hire in our industries. I am also the founder of Rise Her Game, which is a dedicated sports channel for women who are in sports to be able to not only elevate the athletes, but also the people behind the scenes. Now, all this together is a short version of myself and what I do. And one of the interesting fun facts about me is I am actually terrible in sports. So I cannot kick a ball to save my life. But if you put me in a boardroom, I can guarantee you that you shall be represented and the check shall get signed. There you go.
Thank you so much, Syombua. Representation matters. That ball you learn how to kick it.
And yes, realized. And I was just recognized as one of the 50 most influential women, African women in sports. Yeah, that happened this week. Yes.
Congratulations. That is lovely. Thank you so much, ladies. That was lovely. That was such a beautiful introduction. I couldn't ask for more. And now, to dive into the conversation that has brought all of us here, I'll just start right off with. Before that, I'd like to recognize the presence of two of our co-authors that are in the meeting. We have Lucy Nyadira and Rebecca Kimau. We'll give them time later on to say hi, a wave or so. But from now, let us continue with our conversation. I'll start with Clemencia. You described discovering coaching as unexpected bounce back, something that you found in something that you found when you least expected it. Looking back, what helped you stay open to new beginnings at that particular stage of your career?
Thank you, Celine. Thank you for that question. And Syombua, thank you. I think sports is a wonderful place to learn how to bounce back. And so we are in very good company. And to your question, I'm naturally a very curious person. So I keep trying to figure out what else I can do, how else I can do, and I love challenging myself. For this reason, I also read a lot and I read widely, which I'm sure you know broadens one's mind and gives you many options. The other thing is that I've been lucky to have very firm foundations in terms of my upbringing and also my education. I'll mention my father, may God rest his soul in peace, as a man who really taught me how to bounce back at all stages of life, because he's a man who looked for opportunities in all spheres of his life, be it in his teaching profession, in business, or in his farming ventures. He enrolled for what was called extramural studies. When we were young, we would see envelopes, A4 envelopes arriving through what we call now snail mail for his studies, and they were coming from the University of Nairobi. He was always listening to BBC radio. At that time, our Kenya Broadcasting Services, KBC, was called VOK. He would be listening to special programs and you would see him trying whatever it is he learned from what he learned. So he's one of the first farmers in our place to bring in Ruiru 11. It is a coffee, a type of coffee. On our farm, we saw us moving from Sihol cows to Frisian cows. In agribusiness, there's so much he kept on trying and improving. So my dad, big up to him, and may his soul rest in peace. We also lived with his auntie, my grandmother, who I could write a whole book about because of the way she was a woman whom you couldn't put down. But the thing I will mention here today is the fact that she suffered debilitating effects of arthritis, but that never stopped her from keeping on doing something with her life. Now that's my upbringing. Then my faith. And I credit the roots and strength of my faith to my mom and my alma mater, Loreto High School, Limuru, and the founders of Loreto High School, Limuru, the Loreto sisters, because number one, my mom just knew and practiced her faith with so much conviction, and she ensured that we, her children, understood what we believed in and the reasons behind what we did. So we didn't just make the sign of the cross, we were told why we made the sign of the cross and why it mattered. When I went to Loreto High School, Limuru, this was buttressed even further because the Loreto sisters practiced Ignatian spirituality, which I mentioned earlier. So they encouraged us to have an inquiring faith and gave us practices that really grounded us in our faith. So when you know you are wonderfully and fearfully made by a God who loves you and who sent his son so that you could have life and have it abundantly, almost nothing can boggle you. The world is literally your oyster. And then I will mention two other very important trainings that I received, which have helped me in my bounce back. The first one is training in NYS, National Youth Service. I hated it. It was difficult for me, but there I realized that the body can be stretched to immense limits. And then electrical engineering, my undergraduate electrical engineering training again humbled me, because anyone who did engineering knows that you go there as an A student and you start getting marks you have never seen in your life. So that really humbles you. And when you're done with it, you know nothing in this world almost can defeat you. So all these have helped me to be very open-minded and to seek opportunities whenever I can, and to be ready to start over whenever it is needed. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you so much for that, Clemencia. And I love how you capture the reasons that helped you to shift directions at that specific point in time. Even when the path wasn't planned, came from foundational lessons learned from your family, as you mentioned, your late dad and your grandmother, and also your practicing faith, the Ignatius. Um, which I believe is such an important aspect of people's lives and how their trajectory of lives will go. Which I really thank you for that, because that couldn't have gone way better than you would have expected. Speaking of systems and foundations, I'll just go to Catherine. You had to rebuild not because of failure, but because our system failed you, and which is very disappointing. How did you find the courage to start again when the fall wasn't your fault?
Thank you for that question, Celine. The courage came from truth. I had done a lot of inner work, and the inner work included, therapy, coaching, lots of introspection and reflection. And I knew my story. So when bloggers sensationalized the situation, and maybe I should now inform this to the webinar audience, that I was once publicly humiliated, and after losing a court case. So when bloggers sensationalized the whole situation, I had to remind myself that noise is not the truth. My truth is very different from the noise. So you ignore the noise and you embrace your own truth. And that, I think, I will have to reiterate, also counts to ownership in the comeback method that I have created and the reinvention program. Ownership is one of the things that you need to do as a person who's trying to reinvent. Know what your input is in that story. Own your story. Own your truth. It gives you clarity. And once you're clear, you stop defending yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. So that's when forward motion becomes possible. Over to you, Celine.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Just a minute, everyone. Kindly, please let us put our microphones on mute to ensure a seamless session for all of us. Thank you, Catherine, for that. I really love your courage despite all that, and talking about ownership and owning your truth. No one can take your truth away from you if you own it, and doing the inner work. That's what taking responsibility for yourself as a person is looks like. And you don't take responsibility for the fall, but for the future that is ahead for you. Yeah. This I'll just head on to Syombua. She speaks about becoming unshakable, and as a woman in a male-dominated field, as you've heard her say, she's usually one among 50 in the boardroom. You might likely find her alone in that boardroom making decisions in regards to sports. So, your story in becoming unshakable shows how collaboration and teamwork shaped your bounce back. And why do you think true reinvention rarely happens alone? Why does it need a team and a community? Syombua.
Because starting just from the African perspective, and that is, as African women, we live under the aspect of community. But not only that, that even in our normal day-to-day life, nobody is an island. And this literally applies even to business. You cannot be in 10,000 places at the same time. So the one thing that is able to guarantee the success when it comes to business is partnerships, is being in a position to find people you can trust and be able to collaborate present your vision and what you want to give out in different countries. And this is how Skia literally has grown through the aspect of collaboration, through the aspect of partnership. And it's interesting because in the sports world, one of the things that we actually work with is something we call the blind partnership or blind collaboration through blind faith. And that is because you don't get to meet everybody, and it's almost impossible to meet everyone. And so you have to go through the blind faith of trusting people that we are in it together for the same vision. Does this always pan out, like in my situation? Well, one of the partnerships did burn me to the ground. And it was a point in where we thought that the company was actually going to fail. But it again came into factor that it is the other collaborations that we have that ended up allowing us to be able to reinvent ourselves, re-strategize, and come and build ourselves. So we were able to also bounce back through the same collaboration and partnerships.
Yeah, beautifully said, Syombua. And the idea that our rise is often carried by community, as you said, collaborations and blind trust, which we will speak on with the banning from one of them later on. And not just individual strength is such a grounding truth because these days people, especially these these days, like this time we live in, people rarely celebrate community and collaborations. We just celebrate the individuals and doing it alone, but it's showing that sometimes it takes a whole village, a whole group to do something, and it is worth it. I can't say nothing but commend it. And to our audience, I would just like to put a reflection question. Think about a time in life you took a turn that you didn't plan. What did that experience teach you about beginning again? Because oftentimes I believe I myself, I'll speak for myself, I fear the process of beginning again. But sometimes you have to. So what does that experience teach you? We'll continue on to our next segment, which talks about failure and redefining success. And I'll start with our phoenix that rises from the ashes, Catherine. You talk about the unbecoming before the becoming, that deep undoing that must happen before growth. You have to be grinded, formed again, molded. What did that phase look like for you emotionally and practically?
Emotionally, it was brutal. I'd wake up heavy, you're grieving an identity that you thought defined you. Or rather, for me, it defined me. I spoke very proudly about the fact that I'm heading a team, I'm doing this is my job title. So practically, it meant stripping everything down. And, you ask yourself, who am I without the title? Who am I without the team? The recognition, And you wake up every day to the faces of your beautiful babies, very supportive husband, and you realize, oh, life is moving on. Nothing is waiting. Nothing is laying in wait as I grieve this process. So my anchor became faith, surrendering, refocusing on God, and slowly rebuilding from a place of truth rather than performance. And when you find yourself alone with no applause at everything that you seem to be accomplishing on your day-to-day, truly you lean on God. Spirituality comes in. Back to you, Celine.
Thank you, Catherine. And that was such an honest answer. And what I'm getting is this process is not always glamorous the way we might perceive out here. It's quiet, it's messy, but with anchors like faith, God, and people around you, it will end up being deeply transformative. Yeah. And back to Syombua, you faced betrayal, just as alignment, blind trust, quote in quotes. How did that experience redefine your sense of trust and the kind of leader you wanted to be?
The experience was brutal. I cannot lie to you. It not only did it hit myself, but it also hit the company, and it hit the company financially, and it hit us in a way where uh, the people who are trying to bring us down intertwined myself and the company together. And when that happens, it becomes a bit of a difficulty to separate the person from the organization, because then it is she is the founder and the CEO, which means she is the company. And when that happens, it becomes a situation of where am I fighting for myself, or am I going to fight for the company? And the one thing that I had to learn through that entire experience that had to redefine who I became as a leader is the one thing that I am not too good at, and that is patience. I had to learn a significant amount of patience. And that is because when something like that is happening to you, you want to fully defend yourself. You want to come out publicly and fight for your name and fight for the company. You're trying to defend yourself. And this is one thing I will forever thank the lead of my legal team is she kept saying wait. And I was like, what do you mean by wait? She's like, do not respond, wait. And I am not a person of wait. I'm a decision maker. I make decisions on the spot. And so when it comes to wait, it's not one of my biggest patience. It's not one of my biggest. And it's one of the things that I had to learn. And that is because if you decide to get into the mud with, let's say, an analogy of a pig, the pig thrives in mud. It thrives in chaos. And so if you get into that chaos, you're going to end up becoming part of the chaos. So your voice ends up becoming part of the noise, which means even if you're saying your truth, then it's going to be muffled in everything that is in there. And so that was one of the things that I had to really learn fast, hard, and it took months of wait before I could even say anything. But in that quiet moment, in that time of where I had to learn patience, I had to learn to wait, I had to stick to the silence, is where eventually I became the leader that I wanted to be. Because trying to not lose my mind, I decided that I wanted to redefine the company, redevelop the company, change the image. And because the only two options were, we were either going to be completely ruined or we were going to come back again. Either way, the only thing we could do was let's prepare for it. So whichever comes, we were already going to be prepared for it. And the lucky thing is that we were able to come out of that situation. And by the time we came out, it was so good that we were already prepared. So the company had fully morphed into a commercial sports and entertainment company. And we were able to now continue with that narrative. I remember when we initially met, I kept saying that I had to reach a point to get out of my cocoon and start posting 3 times a week on social media to start changing the narrative. And that means me coming out of myself. I had to come out and become a face of the company in terms of conversation and leading the conversation. And this way, my work and my voice and my presence became more louder than everybody else and the noise. And for that, it became a better validation when we eventually came through and came out of the troubled situation. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Syombua. I believe such
Celine, we can't hear you unless it's me.
is worth failing.
I think it's just her internet that is having a bit of a problem.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I think I had been
Yes.
disconnected. Sorry.
We can hear you now.
My
We can
apologies.
hear you now.
As I was saying, the setback that Syombua experienced later on taught her valuable leadership wisdom. She learned patience. She decided the team and had decided to rebuild silently, and later on paid off and got way more better than what they had intended to do. And I'll just say that sometimes you have to choose your battles and know what to do right and what not to do, and this helps us get better decisions in what we do. And I'll head on to Clemencia. She quotes Father Greg Boyle, which he says, anything worth doing is worth failing at. So if you pursue something, it's either you fail at it or you succeed at it. So what role has failure played in shaping your faith in yourself and your work?
Wonderful, Celine. Father Greg Boyle, whose book I quote, the book is Tattoos on My Heart, The Boundless Power of Compassion. Is a member of the Society of Jesus, and he started and runs industry called Homeboys. It's a gangland intervention program in Los Angeles. As I've said, the book talks about the power of compassion. From what we have heard from my fellow panelists, when you fail, you really do need to have compassion to yourself, and also those who fail need compassion from us. What I have learned from my own failures, and they are numerous, but I've only, in my story, in this book, I have picked one. What I've learned is to ask myself questions. Some of those questions include, is this, whatever I'm doing, is it worth failing at? What is the end game? What am I hoping to achieve from this after this? What is it that I expect to gain? Being a very ambitious person, I wanted to climb the corporate ladder to the highest point. And when I was in pipeline, I was doing it very fast. The failure I recount in the book came via way of misalignment. I had to accept that my deepest values were not aligning with the culture in the organization at that time. And since I could not change the culture, I chose to change myself. And the changing of myself was to pivot. move out. So I think many of you have heard a quote attributed to Mahatma Gandhi that says, if you would change the world, change yourself. So I chose to pivot into an environment that I felt was going to be more impactful to society based on what I knew. Although the decision was very difficult, my working with the Society of Jesus deepened my knowledge of Ignatian spirituality, which had been introduced to me in high school by, of course, as I've said, by the Loreto sisters, and which had really grounded me even in my most difficult moments. And thanks to that experience and the knowledge I gained, my professional coaching framework is grounded in principles of Ignatian spirituality and Ignatian leadership, one of which is Magis. You will note that my coaching company is Magis Life Coaching. Magis is a Latin word which means the more. And those who follow Ignatian spirituality desire to do more. And they keep asking themselves, what more could I do? Could I do it better? Is there a better way of doing whatever I'm doing? And among the practices that I have learned, which I will also use in my coaching, is one very important one, and that I practice in Ignatian spirituality is called the examine. Lately, there's keeping gratitude journals that has been popularized, but I find it defective or incomplete, maybe not defective, but incomplete, because you only consider the things that you are grateful about at the end of the day. But in examine, you do more. First of all, you pause, you silence yourself, and recognize that there's a higher being. You haven't created yourself. You didn't put yourself in this world. And you invite the Holy Spirit, because I am a Catholic, I'm a Christian. You invite the Holy Spirit into your presence. But you don't have to be a Christian to practice this examine. Then, after acknowledging that you're in the presence of God, you notice both negative and positive movements in your day or in the moment you are reflecting about. We also call it lights and shadows. You express gratitude for the positive and ask for mercy and forgiveness for the areas where you have failed, while asking for wisdom to do better. What does this do to yourself? It helps you recognize that in any failure, there's a part that you have played. You don't keep on blaming others. You recognize that there's something that you probably did which was maybe wrong, or you could do better. And this humbles you, it changes you, and helps you recognize your sphere of influence. In the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, this is one of the 7 habits. Recognizing your sphere of influence or sphere of control. So it enables you to bounce back, actually, because you stop blaming others, look at what is possible, and also by trusting God and a higher power, you actually move to a better place. And this is something that I am incorporating in my work as a professional coach. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you so much. That was actually very insightful. And what I've gotten from that is, with failure comes the opportunity to be self-aware of ourselves, and like you said, purpose, align ourselves with what tasks or what you're pursuing. We should get lessons learned, know what you're pursuing, and shape ourselves into what we want to become. I believe that is correct. And with this, I'd just like to say that all three of you have touched on something powerful. Resilience is not just a recovery, it's transformation. From Catherine's story to Syombua and to yours, the continuous transformation to becoming something new and not going back to the place, to the position you are in. Bouncing back doesn't mean I'm bouncing back. I was at A, I've gone to negative A. Bouncing back doesn't mean I have to get back to A. It means maybe I should get back to A plus, something like that. So it's going on to something new, something better. And that brings us perfectly into our next segment, which is alignment, purpose, and the leadership required to rise. I'll start with Syombua. How can power be redefined not as dominance, but as influence that uplifts? Seeing that you work in communities, you work and have built communities where collaboration matters more than competition.
Well, when it actually comes to redefining power, and especially as women, we remember we are starting from a position of very limited amount of power, which means it reached a point of where we had to bring in our own table. We had to bring our table because, and especially in an industry of mine where, like you said, it is 100% male dominated. Women in the industry are not even a percentage when it comes to, we can't even put a percentage number when it comes to how many we are in an industry of millions of men. And so at some times you're going to find that situations are going to be very difficult to even find yourself in certain tables. And what happens when that happens? Eventually you're going to have to build your own table and build your own community. And that is one of the things that we've worked really hard to do, and especially in our side of things. Collaboration looked like a situation of where we sat down with fellow other women who are in sports and decided that, you know what, we can do this. There's no way we are going to be letting our voices be represented without us having to have an opinion in the sector. When we are looking at policies, when we are looking at SGBV in the sports side, when we're looking at certain conversations that we women must be in that vicinity to be seen, it needed us to fully come in terms of collaboration. So you'll find that one of the biggest things, and especially with my team and the people I work with, are mostly women. Yes, we do have a few guys that we work with, but you'll find that a lot of the companies that we work with are women-led. And we all found a collective voice of where we are in a position to actually bring ourselves up together. And so even for my company, myself, there was no way I was going to walk into an industry by myself and think that I was going to crack that ceiling and be like, yes, I did it on my own. That was going to be impossible. And so when it comes to the redefinition of power, we have such a humongous, pot of gold that it is almost impossible for anybody to finish it all, not unless you're actually greedy. So it's literally possible to spread that gold to almost everybody, and still there will be still a lot more left. And so at some point, yes, you're going to get some people who are going to be competing. But again, remember, we are in a situation of where a lot of ladies before us had to compete to sit in certain tables. And so for them, they were forever in a position of competing. And then here comes the new generation that says, I'm not competing, I'm going to build on my own. You go in, you study, you come back, you educate another lot of ladies, and eventually you build your own path. Because reality is, we have 10,000 rivers, but at the end of the day, they all end up at the ocean. So you really don't have to just take one path. You can take another different one and get there. You might find yourself following the everyday path that everybody is following, but you'll never get to the ocean because there are too many people there. And yet you may be able to pull in a few people, create a new path, and you get there even faster. So collaboration is not a situation of where we are trying to fight against each other or compete against each other. It's more or less being able to give each and every one of us a voice. And that is the voice that we require, and especially as women in any industry. Like, our voices need to be heard at some point. And that means that we have to be able to step out and actually use who we are, because truly we can't compete with men. I cannot lie to you. But we also have our own unique strengths that allow us to have equity on a table when we require.
Lovely, so lovely, Syombua. This reminds me of an excerpt I read that we as women should not wait for someone else to speak for us. Use your voice to speak for yourself, because if you do not speak for yourself, no one else will. And this shows that power should be something that is expansive rather than restrictive, something that creates room for others, everybody else, other than limiting its usage. And I am so glad you are doing that. Speaking of restrictive power, I'll just go to Catherine. And you stood your ground against organizational politics that punished truth and sincerity and growth. How can professionals hold on to integrity when survival seems to demand compromise?
Interesting question. Now, when you think about it, integrity costs something. When an organization has that in their value system, it does cost something to be integrous. And losing it costs everything. For my case, when politics tried to silence the truth, I was pushed outside. Obviously, that's part of the story I talk about in the Bounce Back book. And when I stood outside of the system rather than participate in wrongdoing, ironically, outside gave me more power because I was able to create, I was in an environment where it gave me more power in the sense I was able to have more clarity. I was able to have more alignment. I could see things for what they were from the outside. Because most of the times when you're inside, you want to align. You want to align even with what you know is wrong, especially in the corporate sector. You want to align because misalignment means you've been thrown out, right? So me being on the outside, ironically, gave me more power. I could see clearly everything for what it was. And sometimes the door closing is redirection. Yeah. It's not always failure. I always thought the worst because while I was on the inside, I'd see how things ran, and sometimes you really want to you try to stay aligned because you still want your job, but when you step on the outside, or once I was pushed on the outside, I learned this the hard way, that I would rather have left, like what Clemencia is talking about, if I discovered the company values do not align with my own. It gives you so much peace and you are better. And I mean, that's what we're seeking out. You want your mental health to not be compromised. You want to be at peace. Maybe it's time we redefine what success looks like, because we will always think about it. It could be money or other things, but really, at the end of the day, that peace and joy in your heart is the end game, right? So yeah, integrity does cost something.
Yeah. I think I've also experienced firsthand that integrity does cost something, and it is often most tested when the stakes are highest. You earn that upper level, you have a good job, good salary, good everything. So with what you have said, it really challenges the audience and everyone else that is listening in to rethink what it means to stand firm and what your values align. The earlier you know what you stand for, I think it is easier to know how to go on with with your professional and personal life. And speaking of leadership, Clemencia is someone who has led across corporate, faith-based, and entrepreneurial spaces. I'd like to just ask, what does ethical leadership look like in a society that often rewards shortcuts?
As we've heard both from Syombua and from Catherine, and sweat literally, it can be very challenging. But it also challenges you to look critically at different perspectives, to look at new and novel ways of proceeding. It sharpens your creativity. And forces you to try and see how else can we do things, because there's a reason why perhaps the society is rewarding shortcuts. And God did not make a mistake in putting me here. And I am supposed to do my best to improve this society. So to illustrate my next point, I'll just use a small story that I had. I think it was Reverend Timothy Njoya who made this, who gave us this story. And he says he saw a vision of people in hell. They were in three balls of fire. And the three different races are in those balls. He notices that the ball that contained the European and the Asian, they were busy trying to get out, and they were helping each other get out. And once you got out, you also helped others get out of that ball. But then he noticed something interesting in the third ball where our race was. People were not as many people were coming out. And those who are struggling to come out were being pulled back. Ni kama unaambiwa hutatoka hapa, utakaa tu hapa na sisi. So I feel we need to process what this hutoki hapa really looks like and why it exists. Because that's the only way we can address why we have shortcuts and maybe try to defeat them, because those shortcuts are keeping us stuck in poverty. So I pose some questions about this hutoki hapa. Does it look like the depth of where we are getting out of? You see, many of us are getting out of debilitating and dehumanizing poverty. So we are scared that failure would take us back into those depths, and therefore we take shortcuts. Perhaps, how do we defeat these depths? Does hutoki hapa look like I'm the first one in my family who, or clan or village, who went to college? I'm the first one who owned a big car. I'm the first one who built a story house. And therefore, I feel like I'm the only one who can lead. Yet, all of us are leading all the time. And the better leaders we each become, the better for our society. But before we answer and discover this question, we may not get those solutions. Does hutoki hapa look like lack of existence of support structures, scaffolding that would help us rebuild once we fail? Does hutoki hapa look like a scarcity mentality, that there isn't enough to go around. And how do we create an abundance mentality? Our book, actually, this bounce back book, helps you in your road as you come up with solutions for your own bounce back, because you relate with other people who have fallen and bounced back. But it also helps us start this conversation, asking these very important questions, because unless we ask those questions and come up with honest answers, we will not get out of the situations that we find ourselves in. And I could go on for a very long time, but I think professional coaching has given me a glimpse of the abundance mentality, because we as professional coaches are taught to believe that all of us can solve our problems. We have what it takes to solve our problems. What we need is to be helped to process the way to solve our problems. And I would like to mention here my trainer, Irene Kinuthia, because I saw in her that abundance mentality at play. Right from the word go, as she taught us to become professional coaches, she equipped us to run our own professional coaching companies. She equipped us to start having our workflows for our businesses. I mean, how much better can it get in terms of accepting that we can solve our problems and there's enough to go around? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clemencia. That was really powerful. And speaking of abundance mentality, I had this woman leader mention to me once in a while. One time back, she says that if this is in regards to your Hutoki Hapa, where that says, are you the first one to do this? Are you the first one to in your family, or are you the first woman to do this? She says that if you ever happen to get yourself to be the first person in a room, in a place above, always leave the door open for someone else. Leave the door open for the next woman leader, leave the door open for your sibling, leave the door open for your cousin, and that will help create a community that will help solve problems, bring out the task where you will not be alone, and hopefully encourage ethical leadership all round. And with that, I'd like to just head over to Catherine. You stopped waiting for permission to do some things and started leading. You stopped waiting for permission to lead and started leading from within. And from your experience, how can women today reclaim the sense of self-permission to rise, to speak, and to rebuild?
It's simple, by realizing that no one is coming to rescue them. Permission is internal, you know? The moment you stop waiting for validation from any facet whatsoever, you start leading from within. And then everything shifts. Because in leadership, we're taught that you literally are leading yourself first before you're leading others.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. And that was such a nice statement. You lead yourself before you lead others. If you can't lead yourself, how sure are you that you're going to be leading others? And to Syombua, speaking of leading, how can women leaders build that culture of collaboration and lift each other in their comeback seasons?
What people don't realize is women already do collaboration. We have chamas. We have, when it comes to the church, we have CWA. We have Women's Guild. These are all collaborations. These are all units where women have come together in order to be able to uplift themselves. And so for us, it's not that we are reinventing the wheel. It is the fact that now what we do is we need to now empower these groups of women so that now they have the tools and they are able to now even become better. Chamas have been some, I think for a lot of people will know that chamas are even growing up. Those were the groups of women that got a lot of us probably through school. They were the ones who were helping our mothers, become self-independent and all. So chamas have been that collaboration that everybody can actually relate to. And when you said something, Celine, in regards to when you're becoming the first person, you open the door to everybody else to come in. Earlier in the year, I was seated in a panel as well, like this one, and Nancy Gitungu was there, who's the current Auditor General. And she said when she sat on that seat as the first ever female Auditor General, she opened the door for other women in finance to be able to walk in. And she's held it upon herself to be able to even train the ladies who are behind her to be able to now come through and also get to be able to learn and to be able into those positions. And that is the thing. Even when you are not just, doesn't have to be mostly a leadership, but the idea is collaboration allows us to open doors to other women. Now, our falls, our ups, our downs become the lessons that we are able to teach other women that, wait, I actually went through that, and this is how I navigated, so you do not have to. There's something that people like to say, especially on TikTok, is, I listened to that so that you don't have to, so let me explain to you what happened. So basically, it's the same thing, that once you get to a certain place, whereby you're able to sit on a table, you're able to open the doors for other women to come through. And that's the idea of bounce back. I think that is where bounce back comes in. I bounced back so that you don't have to. My lessons now become your gateway to opening the door for you to come and see what else you can do and make it better. Because when you are more than one person, I can guarantee you more brains are better than one. Yours is fantastic, but when you put more brains to coming together, like the book itself, we make the book more relatable, more interesting, as opposed to just one person speaking about the story. You get a story of 8 different bounce backs from 8 different women who've gone through 8 different experiences that every single person can actually relate on what's in the book. That is the collaboration that comes with us being able to sit in certain position and open certain doors for everybody else to walk in.
Lovely, lovely. That was so nice, Syombua. And like she said, a practical example of collaboration between women is the book itself, Bounce Back. And I've seen a comment from one of our listeners, Phil Mwathi. He says, very powerful women. And I will agree with that. These are very powerful, exemplary women. And with the bounce back being a practical example of collaboration, which stands in line with our vision as Zion Pearl Publishers, we intend to create a space where women leaders and upcoming leaders get the space to collaborate and speak out and get to have their voices out there. And with all this wisdom on community courage, we step into our final reflections. This is a roundtable question to you all. Each of you has faced seasons that could have ended your story if you wanted it to end. What daily or spiritual practices keep you grounded when life feels uncertain or unfair? We can start with Clemencia, then Catherine, then Syombua.
Thank you, Celine. That's a bit about collaboration, and the fact that women have always collaborated is powerful and so true, and it is very true in this Bounce Back project. I'm forever grateful to the Loreto sisters for introducing me to the Ignatian spirituality, being able to pause and reflect on my day, sometimes multiple times in the day, looking at life from different perspectives, acknowledging my role in whatever failures I may be facing. These have been wonderful practices that have kept me grounded, kept me realistic, and kept me grateful even when things were difficult. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clemencia, for that. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, the Loreto Sisters Foundation was actually founded in a time where Christians were being persecuted, and it was formed as a way of communing with God to avoid the persecution, which is the very essence of collaboration and women working together. We'll go ahead to Catherine.
Thank you. I'd like to, first of all, echo what my co-authors have spoken about and panelists about collaboration. Collaboration is why this book is here today. Collaboration is why we're having this webinar. So I'm so glad that Syombua went into detail about that and spoke about it. But to now tell you the practices that keep me grounded. And I have been doing this for months now. I walk between 5 to, I think, 10 kilometers every morning. Initially, it was difficult, but now I look forward to it because it's my moment of prayer. I am Catholic. I pray the rosary in my morning walks, and the silence, the fresh air that I have to deal with. And then later I meditate, have a lot of quiet time. So silence is also a big part of my grounding trio. I'd say 3 things: prayer, journaling, silence, and the long walks. I don't like writing a lot. You'll be shocked how I journal. I have an app that I discovered. I literally read. I literally just speak to it, and then it transcribes what I want. So it's exciting. So these things, they help me reset and I hear myself clearly and reconnect to purpose when life feels really noisy. Thank you. Back to you, Celine.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that. I believe daily practices like journaling, walks, and listening to podcasts really help to ground us and bring you back to the moment. I'll have Syombua before we proceed.
Well, for me, on my part is sometimes I just have times where I log off. It's become that moment of, because again, I am very I wouldn't say that popular on social media, but I do have a very active following, and it has a tendency to sometimes get very hectic, especially when you are a person who's constantly posting, who's constantly talking, who's constantly being on the face of people. Because once you become a face, and especially a face of the company, and seen as an expert in your industry, then you have a tendency of having people who actually just literally follow you just for that. And I think we are always, a few of my friends were always laughing about it because I have a very large Nigerian following. And so sometimes you always have to have that moment of where you have to step back. You have to go quiet. And my quiet time has become where I found different activities that I like to do for me to be able to just log off from the sports world. And so these are I'm a group of ladies who wine, who's just a group of ladies who come and sit down, enjoy wine, have conversations, and just not be a CEO or, like this. We always have this responsibility of where, as ladies, we also carry out not more like our titles, but we are put in a certain standard by society of where if you fumble, then it's going to be a mess and you have a lot to clean up. And it's always that scare of what happens if someone just records me and I end up trending or something like that. But so when you're in a group of people where you trust that you can easily be yourself, you can put away all the many hats that you carry and just be the human being, it is so amazing, because then you get to reconnect with who you are. I'm also an avid reader. I love to read. I am a person who is, I think I have several apps to just keep me updated on what's happening in the sports industry. As much as my entire 100% focus is always on what is happening on the African continent, I love to see what the rest of the world is doing, because then we get ideas on what we can do here. So it's always reading and sometimes mostly checking out when I can.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Syombua. And these practices that you have all mentioned are such grounding reminders. Consistency, the reflections, and community and faith, they all play a part. And this is a question to the audience, and feel free to answer in the chat. What are your grounding practices? Is that daily practices, spiritual practices, or acts of journaling, such like practices that help ground you when life feels uncertain or fair? You can put your responses in the chat. I'll say an example of mine is I like to listen to music, a specific type of music that I know will bring me back to reality, and I'll I'll be grounded at that specific point in time. Okay. This is still a follow-up to the question. Resilience is often romanticized, but it is also exhausting. As Syombua has said, at the many hearts, the heaviness on the shoulders, it is exhausting. So, what do you all do when you are feeling exhausted of carrying that strength and you want to relax for a moment? We'll just continue with this, Syombua.
First of all, I refused resilience. I was like, I am a soft life girl.
Mhm.
I was like, I refuse to be a strong, independent woman. I refuse. It is not my portion. And that
Mhm.
is because when you bring in that notion of strong, independent, resilient, you're adding way more to yourself than you can handle, because when you actually have to be human, people are going to, people will put you on a pedestal. And when that happens, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually come out of that pedestal. And when you fall, the fall becomes harder, because people will be like, oh my God, I can't believe, we put her there. So I refuse to take the strong, independent woman. No, I refuse. Resilience, no. I know that I know that I'm capable of mistakes. I know that I've learned that in it, I'm also in a position to learn from my mistakes and be able to rebuild from there. Because again, for me, mistakes are stepping stones. There's no such thing as a straight ladder to success. You're gonna fall, you're gonna stand. And so for me, I've learned that at the end of the day, it's not that serious, you know? And when you have there's something in the book of it's a study guide in terms of, it says at the center, so what? You're going through problems, can you fix it? Then why are you worried? If you can't fix it, then why are you worried? And so I've taken that type of mentality for myself, that I may not be able to do something right now, I may not be able to do something tomorrow, but there's an idea that's going to pop up eventually, and I'm going to be able to work on it. So I've refused to stress myself. I was losing my mind when we were going through that situation, but that also situation with the part of patience, it helped me understand that sometimes I've got to breathe, I've got to let go, I've got to let the universe or the situation run its course. And so I've learned that from a very hard gut punching lesson, but it's become something that I now hold on to.
Thank you, Syombua. And that is nice. Putting so much the word resilience. Sometimes we have to accept as women, we just want to be baby girls. Yeah. We'll have Catherine, then Clemencia.
Thank you, Syombua, for reminding us that we're baby girls. Oh gosh. All right. So what do? I rest, actually. Rest is part of resilience. I'm still holding on to the word. Because for me, I literally schedule rest into my schedule, into my plan for the day. And it's not the kind of rest that I will work so hard and then at the end of the week, oh, I'll take 2 days off. I don't believe in that. I rest intermittently within the week. Sometimes if my Monday and Tuesday have been so hectic, I will literally take half of the day on Wednesday to rest if I had not slotted meetings that really need me. So I allow myself to slow down and to breathe, to recalibrate, because burnout doesn't build comebacks. It doesn't.
No.
Alignment does. You have to be very well aligned with your purpose to start seeing results. Right? Back to you, Celine.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I don't know who mentioned this, but I believe someone says rest is very important. That work-life balance, you should prioritize rest too, because it is a healthy way of maintaining yourself, and it also ensures you present yourself 100%, the best version of yourself when leading, when handling something. So thank you for that. Rest is equally important. We will have Clemencia.
Thank you, Celine. I love the way Syombua has put it. That she's a baby girl. Wow. When you have bills to pay, sometimes those falls and the depth of the hall, it can be something to learn how to actually rest and say you refuse resilience, or you refuse to push yourself to a place where you break down. So rest, yes, a good night's sleep. I'm very fortunate because I can sleep through any crisis most of the time. As I'm getting older, it's more difficult, but it's not difficult for me to sleep, so I sleep. I have a good night's sleep, but over and above that, I have hobbies. I have learned gardening. If you come to my place, you will find very many plants lately. I wasn't always like that. I deliberately decided to garden. I cook. Going far away. Taita is a wonderful. Going home to our rural home and practicing different things is an amazing way of resting. And there's so much you can see in Taita. I welcome you to holiday in Taita anytime. County number 6.
As Clemencia has said, Tembea Kenya and County number 6 is very open to receiving you all. So before we have our closing call, I'll just like to read a few comments from the question that I posed. What are the grounding practices that you practice? We have a few. Let me just read them out. Phil Mwasi says, hitting golf rubber balls at my backyard. And hitting has been proven to help release pressure and bring you back to earth. Thank you for that, Phil. Rebecca says prayer and fasting, listening to motivational podcasts, and fitness. Lovely. Thank you so much, Rebecca. She is one of our co-authors. Betty Kitatu says, starting the day with a scripture that inspires me the whole day. I kind of like this one because it sets the tone for your whole day. We have a few. We have Wairimu Nyadira saying, taking care of myself is a lot. I rest a lot. I find I find me time. I walk a lot, about 6 kilometers a day. And when I need to bounce back, I take additional walks in intervals to help me reconnect with the day's energy. Nature is so forgiving in Nature is so forgiving. It lights up my inner energy. Bouncing back takes time, but it's all finding your footing again in your own way and at your own pace. Most important for me is to heal my mind and be able to keep thinking. All this is possible through Christ. Amen. Prestige says praying 100%. You can never go wrong with prayer. And a few comments. You have Njeri saying burnout doesn't bring come out. Uh, puts on a T. The Bible highlights the principles discussed today. It's always a good place to be grounded, and I cannot agree more. We have a comment from Peter Mwamachi. He says, impressive intro. Looking forward to reading the book. Thank you so much, Peter. We look forward to interacting with the book. Catherine reiterates, pray and praying. Amen. You can never go wrong with prayer. With that, ladies, I'd just like you to finish the sentence for me. To bounce back is to. What would your ending be today in this season of your life? You can start with Clemencia. Let me mute.
To bounce back is to grow.
Just a minute so that you are not disturbed. Okay. Clemencia, once again.
To bounce back is to grow.
Yes, to bounce back is to grow. Syombua?
To bounce back is to accept that sometimes failure will be there, but you are strong enough to rise from whatever situation you're going to be in. That acceptance alone is bounce back.
Thank you, Syombua. Catherine?
To bounce back is to rise from a setback into a setup, a comeback created with clarity, courage, and intention.
Very nice, very nice. To grow, accept, and to rise. These are very beautiful spectrum of meanings, and it shows how bouncing back is deeply personal, yet universally resonant. And bouncing back doesn't have to come from a major, it is any setback that you may experience in life. Accept, grow, and rise. I believe that is okay. And I'd just like to take this time to thank each of you ladies, our panelists, our speakers for today, Clemencia, Catherine, and Syombua, for not just sharing your stories, but living them out loud with honesty, courage, and grace. Sharing your stories with us is something that will help some of us, or if not all of us, to know how to bounce back, to go about it with the knowledge from you. And reading on into the book, we'll get to know how to navigate experiences like this in our lives. Let me just read one comment before I close out. We have Clemencia saying, thank you so much, our audience, for joining us. And adding on what she has said to our audience here on Zoom and YouTube Live, thank you so much for joining us for this powerful bounce back conversation. I hope today's dialogue has reminded you that resilience is not a destination, it is a practice, a posture, and sometimes a quiet decision to rise again. And if today's session has moved you, challenged you, or gave you language for your own journey, I want to encourage you to take the next step by getting a copy of your own of Bounce Back, Lessons on Bravery, Resilience, and Tenacity. A link will be shared to be able to purchase the book in the comment section. this is a collection. Bounce Back itself is a collection of real stories, real lessons, and real strength. And it deserves a place in your hands, not just on your screen. And even more exciting, we love to see you at our official book launch happening on the 28th of November, 2 weeks from now. The venue will be Weston Hotel from 2 p.m. We'd love for you to be part of the celebration, the conversations, the connections, and the energy of this moment. Let me just share the links with you on how to get the book and to register for the launch. Yes, you can get a copy of the book from there. It will be delivered to you, or get to have them from your connections here, whether Clemencia, Catherine, or Syombua. You can get the book. Catherine says, I cannot wait to read the book. Yes, we cannot wait for you to also read the book. And on behalf of our incredible authors, like I said, we have two of our authors in the room with us. We'll have Rebecca say hi if she's able to. You can put your video on, and then Lucy, just to say hi. We might be meeting them next week for our second webinar.
Hi, everyone. See you at the book lounge. Eagerly waiting to see all of you. And congratulations to the co-authors. That has been an amazing session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Esther.
Thank you very much for the co-authors for articulating this bounce back so well. I've enjoyed myself when being an author, and really looking forward to the launch and inviting everyone else to come and join us on the 28th. Thank you very much, and good job to all of you.
Thank you so much, Esther. We appreciate. John says, thank you, ladies. This is to you, our panelists for today. Thank you, ladies, for the inspiring and insightful presentation. Thank you, John, for being part of this webinar today. And as I was saying, thank you, ladies, again. And on behalf of the entire Bounce Back team, thank you for spending your time with us today. Let us keep rising, keep rebuilding, and let us keep choosing to bounce back every single time. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was ensuring everyone has left.